Mongolia's weather has a way of keeping you on your toes. On my first day, when I saw the sky so blue it looked like a painting, I thought, maybe it'll stay this way. But by the next morning, it was raining. And when I thought summer was slowly approaching, snow started to fall. It made me think about life, how it can shift from light to dark to absolutely neutral, often without warning. Maybe that's what Mongolia teaches you if you're paying attention, to stop hoping for predictability and learn to live with what you have. We started the morning on an open road, somewhere in the middle of the steppe. The kind of road where the sky stretches endlessly in every direction. And the land seems to breathe beneath you. We passed by a small town called Khujirt. Out on the steppe, in the middle of emptiness, there's something comforting about seeing rooftops rise in the distance. That's how you know you're approaching a town. It's the promise of warmth, of life, of something human breaking the monotony of the land. It's a paradox, really. I love the silence out here, the freedom to let my thoughts drift. But the emptiness also scares me. The vastness can make you feel untethered. Sometimes I catch myself missing the very noises and crowds I was trying to escape. We were heading toward Uurtiin Tokhoi, a cliff overlooking a dramatic bend in the Orkhon River. It's one of those places you'd never find on your own. Tucked away in Orkhon province near Kharkourin, it's best accessed by a four-wheel drive during late spring and summer. There are no road signs here, only tire tracks and instinct. Monsoon rains in July and August can make the dirt roads treacherous, so local guidance is essential. I'd never heard of it before this trip, but then again, most of Mongolia felt like that. Undiscovered, understated, unforgettable. Uurtiin Tokhoi is a 40-meter cliff towering over the winding Orkhon River. The views from the edge are sweeping, unbroken steppe, distant hills, and the quiet, persistent movement of water below. According to legend, this place was once known as Uurtiin Tokhoi, the Cliff of Corpses. The name traces back to the 17th century, when Galdan Boshugtu Khan, a leader of the Oirat Mongols, led a campaign against Zanabazar, Mongolia's spiritual leader. As his army crossed the Orkhon River, a sudden flood swept away his soldiers. Their bodies were said to have gathered at this bend, staining the land with memory. Today, it's called Uurtiin Tokhoi, the chest-shaped cliff, named for the curve of its silhouette against the sky. Some herders still speak of its energy, a quiet warning in the wind. They'll camp nearby, but never too close to the edge, as if respecting something older than names. From the cliff, the river looks timeless. It carves its path without apology, indifferent to legends or the weight of history. The Orkhon stretches over 1,100 kilometers, lifeline to both wildlife and herders in this unforgiving land. I stood there longer than I expected. The air was dry and cool, broken only by the whisper of wind and the distant call of an eagle. I looked down into the gorge, etched deep by time, and felt small. Back in the car, we continued toward the Orkhon Waterfall. The landscape opened wider still. Rolling steppe, scattered livestock, and the occasional solitary yurt. From the top of a mountain pass, the world unfolded below us. There, snaking through the valley, a river appeared. Wide and blue as a vein of lapis lazuli against the rust-colored mountains. We weren't crossing it today, just bearing witness to how water writes its own story across this land. Later, we stumbled upon a herd of yaks and cows, their shaggy coats matted with dust. As I stepped closer, their heads snapped up in unison, ears twitching. For a moment, we all froze. Me, the outsider, and them, the true keepers of this land. Then with a snort, the lead yak turned away, and the spell broke. At times like this, the world doesn't need your commentary. It just needs your presence. When we arrived at the falls, I'll admit, I was surprised. In late spring, the waterfall is modest. The flow was moderate, pouring into a dark basalt canyon. I had pictured a roaring cascade. Instead, I found something gentler. And maybe that's the thing about travel. What you expect isn't always what you find. Just like the weather in Mongolia, it shifts. Sometimes it stuns you with sunshine. Other times it humbles you with stillness. And stillness, if you let it, can be just as beautiful. Around noon, we stopped at a nomadic family's yurt for lunch. I asked my guide if he knew the family, and he said no. It was his first time here, too. That's when I learned something about life here. In the Mongolian steppe, hospitality isn't just tradition, it's survival. Winters can be brutal, and distance is vast. If someone is stranded, the instinct isn't to hesitate, it's to help. If you need shelter, you find the nearest yurt. You ask to come in. You share warmth, food, and space. It's a quiet code of mutual care. Coming from a city where we lock our doors and screen our calls, the idea of letting strangers into your home, especially unannounced, felt unimaginable. But out here, it's not foreign, it's human. Their home was simple. A yurt lined with white patterned cloth, its wall held up by bright orange beams. A queen-sized and 4 narrow beds painted in the same vibrant orange lined the perimeter. and a stove at the center of it all. They didn't speak English. We didn't speak Mongolian. But it didn't matter. There was warmth in their smiles and kindness in the way they gestured for us to sit and poured us milk tea. Some things don't need words. Before this trip, I had so many questions. Can you visit a nomadic family? Do they speak English? The short answer is not really. Not without a guide. But with the right local connection, it's possible. And more than that, it's meaningful. Just show up with respect. Listen and learn their way of being. And remember, your way isn't the only way. We were invited to ride horses. I made a passing comment that they looked quite thin. Our guide explained that they were still recovering from winter. Give it a few months, he said, and they'll fatten up again, ready to brace for the next one. Another quiet reminder that the rhythm of life here is so different, slower, tougher, and that the city girl I am is so detached from the natural clock of the world. Mongolian horses are small, but built for endurance. They've survived here for millennia, not by being big, but by being tough. They're one of the oldest horse breeds, largely unchanged since Genghis Khan's era. They've adapted over centuries to this harsh, beautiful land. By the time we were riding, the sky had gone grey. The colour drained from the land, leaving behind a quiet kind of beauty. And maybe that ties back to what I felt earlier. The weather, like life, doesn't owe you brightness. You find meaning even in the muted tones. Oh, and if you watched my other videos, I very much prefer riding horses over camels. This trip, our tour company did something extraordinary. They arranged for a hotel chef to come with us. When we first arrived in Mongolia, we mentioned that my parents don't eat beef or mutton. In a country where those two meats are staples, that's a tall order. To our surprise, our tour company took it to heart. They communicated with the hotel, and the next thing we know, they packed pans, fresh vegetables, spices, and even chicken, and sent a chef and a hotel manager to travel with us into the wild. Out here, that's no small feat. Mongolian mutton is truly exceptional, tender, flavorful, unforgettable. But the thoughtfulness behind adapting a menu for us in the middle of nowhere, that was next-level hospitality. Lunch began with fresh salad, then stir-fried mixed vegetables, followed by suivan, Mongolian stir-fried noodles, and to our surprise, stir-fried chicken. It wasn't just a meal, it was proof that someone had planned ahead, not only buying the ingredients, but bringing the pot and pan, cooking oil, everything, into a car and bringing them hundreds of kilometers from the resort. It's easy to romanticize the steppe, but out here, every comfort is earned. And that made the effort all the more meaningful. That evening, we returned to Khan Khujirt Wellness Resort, located in the town of Khujirt. This isn't your typical hotel. The resort blends traditional hospitality with health and wellness services, using local hot springs and natural therapies rooted in Mongolian healing practices. The springs are rich in sulfur and sodium, believed to aid joint and skin conditions. The resort felt like a sanctuary. The reading room's shelves were stacked with books, most of them in Cyrillic. By the lobby, a small cafe served light meals and proper Western coffee, the bitter aroma mingling with the scent of steamed milk. Nearby, a chess set and ping pong table waited for guests craving movement. Our bedroom was clean and spacious, with thick blankets for the chilly nights. Though there was no AC, we didn't need it. The late spring air slipped in through the windows, cool and sweet with sage. There's also a separate wing with medical service rooms where guests can get an array of treatments that include acupuncture and traditional treatments. It seems more than a place to stay. It's a place designed for renewal. The wellness center here offers a mix of modern and traditional therapies, many of which revolve around Khujirt's famed mineral springs. There's a bath with water massage, a carbon dioxide bath for circulation, mud wraps, even treatments designed for seniors and joint pain. What struck me most was how many locals were here. Families with kids waiting for their turn to the mineral baths, grandparents moving slowly but deliberately toward the treatment rooms. This wasn't just a tourist stop. It was a thread in the fabric of daily life. Two elderly women making their way to the carbon dioxide baths, their laughter lines deepening as they traded stories. For them, this was routine. For me, it was a glimpse into something far more intimate than any brochure could offer. This wasn't just a resort, it was a gathering place where healing happened as much in conversation as in treatment. I signed up for a mud spa and a body massage. The mud, warm and mineral-rich, was applied gently to my body. Mongolians believe that the mineral-rich mud helps reduce inflammation, soothe joint pain, and improve circulation. It draws from the land, from layers deep beneath the earth. And it reminded me, Mother Earth is a gift that keeps giving. After 15 minutes, the staff returned, removed the mud, and I rinsed off in a warm shower. I left the room feeling lighter and more grounded. Breakfast was a quiet revelation. Alongside millet and oat porridge, there was bantan, a hearty meat porridge, rich with slow-cooked mutton and just the right amount of salt. I went back for seconds. For those wanting something familiar, pancakes, cold cuts, and cereal were laid out like a promise. You're far from home, but not unwelcome. I lingered over my salty milk tea, watching the dining room fill with sunlight and guests rubbing sleep from their eyes. It was the kind of meal that made you pause, not because it was extravagant, but because it felt right. Mongolia doesn't promise postcard-perfect sunsets or predictable roads. It gives you storms and silence, cliffs that hold ghosts, rivers that rewrite their own course. Like the weather, like life, it shifts without warning. Bright one moment, muted the next. But that's the lesson, isn't it? We spend so much time hoping for calm skies, for plans to unfold just so. Yet here, under this vast and restless sky, you learn the grace of letting go, to take the rain when it comes, the sun when it breaks, and the stillness when it settles. To live not with expectation, but with what you have.